Vice President for the DSCA. I also run the events for the DSCA. David Lowe, our President, unfortunately is on vacation and sends his regrets, so you guys unfortunately are stuck with me today. Sorry. Anyway, just a quick couple thank yous. One for all of our speakers who are coming out. I know they have a lot of really good information to share with you guys today. A huge thank you to Erin Caldwell of Right-Way Emergency Services for being able for us to all hear you guys today and hear us with the AV equipment. A huge thank you to Paul Petrulis, our moderator. And last but certainly not least, to all of our Platinum Associate members. Without these guys, we could not put these events on. They are the best of the best in their business, so make sure you guys stop by and check them out. They all provide great services I know you guys can use. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Paul.
No, keep it down. Keep it down. All right, so before we get into this, I just got to do one quick thing. Okay, I want all of you to start clapping. Come on, you do it. All right, okay. Thank you so much. Well, again, my name is Paul Petrulis. I've been working with the DSCA for several years now. Really appreciate everybody's time and energy focused on your association, but certainly Sarasota and the downtown area. This is important to you, and we want to make sure that you get your questions answered. There's going to be a lot of information given to you, so please, from a perspective of respecting everybody, as each speaker comes up, we're going to go one at a time. Each speaker is going to have about 10-ish minutes or so to speak. Over the course of this presentation, you're going to have questions. We're respectfully going to be taking those questions in the Q&A session at the end, so we can have a little bit of a level of consistency throughout this experience. So as your questions come up, write them down on the cards that you have. Towards the end, we'll come and collect them, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Does that make sense for everybody? It's much more fun when we all do this together. Yeah? Yes. There you go. All right. All right, well, again, welcome to the session, folks. Our first speaker today is none other than Patrick Robinson, the Deputy City Manager and Public Safety Administrator of the City of Sarasota. So, Pat.
First party foul. Well, thank you guys. My name is Pat Robinson. I'm the Deputy City Manager for the City of Sarasota. I've been with the city for 23 years. I'll start my 24th year of service this coming November, so I've been around for a little while. I grew up in Sarasota. My folks moved here in 1980, so I've seen it go from pretty much a one-story town to what we have today, save a couple of these buildings out here. So I've seen a lot of change over the years. But my boss, Mr. Marlon Brown, asked to say hello and thank you for your interest and your involvement in our government with all our staff. And I'd like to thank all my staff to come out here and answer all the questions that I can't answer for you guys later today. They truly are the experts. I'd like to point out a couple other folks here. Steve Cover. Steve, raise your hand so everybody knows where to throw the tomatoes. And where's Wayne Appleby? Wayne, where are you at? There you go. Stand up, Wayne. There you go. Thank you. There he is. There he is. Our Economic Development Director. Great folks. So I'm going to go over a brief presentation, kind of give you a taste of what we have going on in the city. I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Wayne for the questions later on. So I appreciate you. Paul, I'll just flip through here if this works. All right. Here we go. Yes. Oh, see, this isn't my slide, so I'm going to have to come over here and look at this. Whose slide is that?
Yes. It's somebody's slide.
Yes. All right. Well, moving on. Moving on. Let's see. All right. So Jessica, speakers. There I am. All right. Jamie Adams. Jamie's right up here, Lieutenant Wayne Ruben, Erin Silk, Ian Black, Joe Thomas, and Diane Seda. So hopefully they all know they're speaking and have their slides in order, not like me. So I apologize. So, oh man, look how skinny I was. I just thought I wore a different tie. All right, so just to kind of give you an idea of how our city is set up. It's a city manager form of government, and obviously the public is way up top, the city commissioners, my boss, city manager, and then the city auditor and clerk, city attorney. I work for Mr. Brown, way down here at the bottom, just where I should be. And these are my public safety departments, and these are my forward-facing, public-facing units. So basically anything that touches the public runs through my office. Jim Lample, raise your hand, sir. He's my lowest paid employee. He sends me out 6 emails every day. So Jim, thank you. Keep up the good work. Keeping me honest. So a couple of the really big things that we're working on in the city that we're excited about that I'd like to share just really quickly, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask questions later. But we've heard a lot about the Sarasota Performing Arts Center, or SPAC, or staff, as we're referring to it now. That's one of our long-term goals, to take the vandalism parking lot, turn it into green space, and really bring a world-class performing arts center. if we can fund it, if it's voted on by our elected officials, and then ultimately the citizens down the road. But that's sort of what artist rendering of what it could be, and that would be finalized through also the bay phases 1 through 3 that you can see right through here with the raised dining platforms and some of the parking enhancements over here. But one of the things that we're trying to look forward to additional usages in the future. The Bay Park. How many folks here have been out to the Bay? All right, nice. Give yourself a round of applause. Pat, yeah, and I know you're taking this. Come on. So 53 acres total. Phase 1 was completed about a year ago, just over a year ago, and that you can see here. For those of us that have lived here long enough, you remember that this used to be the old Sully Library, that then turned into GWIZ Science Center, which then turned into a de facto homeless shelter. It was reimagined and retrofitted with all of these amenities about 2 years ago, and then they just completed the nest, which is this area right here, about a week ago, and put in all the shade structures. This is actually a little snack shop and drink area where you can get a drink, and this is phase 1. Phase 2 will carry out further around to the Van Wezel proper. So kicking off in 2026, completion for phase 2, and it's going to be really exciting. Let's see, this is sort of the phase 1. This actually, very interestingly, this has been delayed due to finding active coral and seagrass beds over here. So this portion of the Sunset Boardwalk has been scrapped, I think, kind of about here, because we actually have live coral at the outflow there. So pretty exciting find that was not intended. But that's phase 1. This is sort of phase 2, phase 3 that we're looking at, and that's the area in which the area this back might go into. There's a great footprint. We're doing a lot of things ecologically with water cleaning coming out of some of the Whitaker Bayou area. I mean, it's a really, really good project. All right, there we go. Dockside Canal Zone, which will take an inactive dockside and actually activate it, allowing for more boats to come in and out for recreational and dining options here. And it'll also allow more launching of the boats from the 10th Street Boat Ramp, which is something that we hear a lot of complaints about. This is the big topic tonight, ZTAs, which is, thank goodness I brought my dream team to answer questions. But we are trying to update some of the antiquated language in our zoning text amendments that is, controversial, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what the Planning Commission, Planning Board, and ultimately City Commission votes on. So something to keep in mind, nothing's done until it's actually ratified. So if there's issues, make sure you're reaching out to your elected officials. If you have an opinion, make sure your voices are heard. So just keep that in mind while we're moving through this. Nothing's written until it's done and voted on. So please keep that in mind while we work through these things. Let's see, affordable housing. I think we are doing more. Actually, who was I with the other day? It was one of our state reps, and they said we're literally doing the most that any other municipality in Manatee, Sarasota, DeSoto, or Charlotte County is currently working on. We're doing everything we can in the city to increase our affordable housing. That includes additional bonuses for height and density. If you're doing affordable housing, we have some really exciting projects. We just had a meeting with the Public Housing Authority today about one of their new projects. So there's a lot of really exciting things that are going on in the city to try to get out ahead of these workforce housing demands, because it's not going to go away, unfortunately. Public art plan, we have a fantastic public art plan. I know we have had some challenges recently with the roundabouts and the FDOT mounting guidelines that we have to abide by from an engineering standpoint. But and what I'll do, Paul, is I'll make sure, and Pat Gannon and some of your other board members, I'll make sure I send the actual full public art plan to you so you can distribute it to the list. We also have a really exciting program that it'll give you a self-guided walking tour of all of our public art, and it's just on an app you can download on your phone. A lot of people don't know about that, but it's a very interesting program. So I'll make sure I get that to your folks. Also, I'd like to say, David Lowe pulled a fast one on me. He's like, oh yeah, no, I'll be there. Somebody told me he's on a cruise at the moment. So I was like, I'll whip up a hurricane for him. So we got parklets coming before the commission. Obviously, we're trying to, during COVID, there was a lot of interest in outside dining, but some of the folks might have seen out there, we had barrels, or we had plats for forklifts. Really wouldn't stop a vehicle. So we tried to standardize and to change the program to ensure that if a business was going to put a parklet out there, that they were meeting certain engineering standards to ensure safety and uniformity, ADA compliance. So that's going to get rolled out. I'm not sure how much interest we'll have in the long run, because it is rather costly, but it's all about safety at the end of the day. And just a little cap off here, sort of a pat on the back. And this is obviously not our rankings, because we're always number one in our own mind, right? But this is what other people think of us. So we're doing a lot of things, and some of the things are good, and some of them are controversial. But I think a lot of people that live in other places still want to move here, and that's part of why we love having events like this, so we can hear what people want out of their community. So like I said, I would really hope you take advantage of your level of access to the city of Sarasota, to your elected officials and to your staff. Please ask questions. You might not always like what the answer is that you get back, but we're always here trying to push that ball forward and make this place a really great community to live in. So thank you guys so much, and I appreciate your time and your involvement. Thank you. And that actually is my real phone number and my real email address. So
Quick, take pictures, quick.
go ahead, I'll leave it up there. The next one. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Pat. So we are in the second safest room in the entire city today. Lieutenant Jamie Adams here, the Assistant Commander of the Patrol Division of the Sarasota Police Department, is here today to give us his view of what's happening in Sarasota. Lieutenant?
Wow. I just got some bad personal news. I'm going to be kind of short here. I got to step out and make a phone call. I'm not nearly as well spoken as the Deputy City Manager. I'm certainly not the Chief of Police, who I know you guys expected to see here tonight, but I am Lieutenant Jamie Adams of the Sarasota Police Department. Let me see how I can get this to work here. Is it right? No? There we go. There I am. I've been here a little over 20 years. Like I said, I'm the Assistant Commander of Patrol. We have around 110 officers in patrol. It's our largest division in the department. To answer questions later, I've brought a few important people with me tonight. I got Officer Jason Frank, traffic homicide investigator. Most people believe they're outright traffic tickets. They're actually homicide investigators. Anytime we have traffic homicides, fatalities, they will come out and investigate those. Sergeant Pat Comack, our newly formed community relations unit. Any kind of community policing, any kind of special events, Sergeant Comack takes the lead on that. And then one of our most important members of the police department is Sergeant Jamie Morrison. She's in charge of our homeless outreach team, and I know homeless is a big issue downtown, so I'm hoping any questions that you guys can have, or you guys have later on, she can answer that for you. But I appreciate these guys being here. I appreciate you guys having us tonight. On behalf of the chief, I want to send my sincerest apologies for him not being able to be here. Another engagement, I believe he got double booked and just had to make some choices, so we apologize. The chief, though, does understand how important downtown is. It's the face of the city. The chief, or the downtown and the beach, main areas. We know some of the issues that are occurring in the downtown area that we're trying to tackle. So what we're doing right now is creating a bicycle unit. We're trying to get an 8-person bicycle unit. It may start off at 6, but it's going to be dedicated to the downtown area. So this area of downtown will have 5 dedicated officers pretty much at any one time, which is by far more in a way than any other zone that we have in the city. He takes this area very seriously. We have traffic issues, we have noise issues, we have homeless issues. About everything you can imagine happens downtown. We want to, kind of keep the reins on the crime downtown because we know it's very important. The police department is going through a change. When I started here 20 years ago, we had 204 police officers. We were down recently to in the 140s. So we've been approved now to go back up to 189, 190 if you count our deputy city manager, but 189 is a good number. I believe we should be closer to 225. We're at 204 20 years ago, and we've actually decreased. So we're trying to get those numbers back up. But some of those officers will be dedicated to the downtown area to tackle some of these issues. Right now, our effective strength, realistically, that we can put on the road is around 153 or so. So we are way down, but we have people in the works. We have people in field training. They're just not on the road yet, but they're coming shortly. Our hope is also to put 2 more in the traffic unit to help with some of the issues that are downtown that we know we're dealing with. So, we've been here through the time. For 20 years, we've seen downtown just explode. With the high-rise condos, traffic, people, noise. When I started here, Friday and Saturday nights were pretty quiet downtown. It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the corridor. That was the big spots for Friday and Saturday nights, and we had all of our officers up there. And Main Street was pretty quiet. And now it's the complete opposite. You can go up to Newtown right now on a Friday, Saturday night, and see 10, 15 people. It's pretty quiet. Everybody is downtown. It's packed down there, and we simply don't have enough officers right now to tackle all the issues. But we're getting our numbers back up slowly and then trying to work towards that. So I'll stop this now so I can take a phone call, and then I'll let you guys ask questions later on. I think we'll...
No problem. Thank you very much, Lieutenant. Appreciate it. Lieutenant Adams. All right, Wayne, you ready? To the chair of the Downtown Improvement District, Wayne Ruben, everyone.
By show of hands, who knows what the Downtown Improvement District DIS, the DIN. Pretty good, thank you. So here, for the people that don't understand what DIN is, it's a self-taxing district. So we take the commercial property owners from about 2nd Street over to Pineapple, Lemon, and around, and Orange. And we self-tax ourselves, a certain amount of millage. We collect that money. Our budget's approximately a little less than $1 million a year that we collect from ourselves, and we spend it on city projects, things to enhance life in the city and also enhance our infrastructure. So we've been doing this. It has been founded by Erin and others, Paul Thorpe Park, probably 15, 20 years ago. They've been around. Mark Hoffman's on the board presently right now, terming out actually. It's always been a wonderful addition. Chris Volker, myself, Eileen Hampshire, and Tony Cruz, who owns Lotus on Main Street. So we run this board and we allocate money to infrastructure projects and groups that come before us. So just so for instance, what do we do with our money? So we contribute to the teen court. We contribute to the homeless budgets that in the city to enhance their programming. So we try and do some great social things that would enhance downtown, the quality of life downtown, and also to enhance the experience downtown. We participate in the trolley that runs out to St. Armand's Circle. We were concerned about that at first because we thought we were going to take our commercial customers, the restaurant patrons, and take them to the St. Armand's Circle, but actually the opposite happened. We brought a lot from St. Armand's, a lot of beachgoers to come and enjoy our downtown, which leads to the vibrancy in the streets. We do the tree light program that's downtown, on all the trees that's up year round. I found that idea down in St. Petersburg. I went there one evening, walking there downtown, trying to get ideas, what do they do right, what do they do wrong, how can I enhance our quality of life? And I saw those tree lights. I came back, Hagen Brody was the mayor at the time. I said, hey, you got to see this. I took pictures. He fought me, didn't like the idea. He thought it's for Christmas time only, but I said, white lights just make a city alive. You go down Main Street, and merchants are closed at 5 or 6 o'clock in the dark offices. It's quiet and deserted. The side streets where the restaurants are kind of pick up the activity. So we put the tree lights up. It brings good vibrancy to downtown. It makes the park look beautiful. So that was a good, successful program. As I said, we participated in the trolley, which has been a great success. Steve, great job. You guys are knocking out of the ballpark. I hope that's a permanently self-funded program, and that we'll be able to continue that for many years to come, because it's a wonderful traffic reliever. We participated. We developed a storefront program in the livable pandemic. With merchants suffering, restaurants suffering, the depth of the pandemic, we came up and gave them a $5,000 grant. Anyone who wanted to enhance their storefront, could be new awnings, could be seating for the outside, heaters for the restaurants, whatever it took to try and help with new signage, anything to make it come alive and look like we were still in business. So that was an important program that we went through about, I think, $250,000 in storefront grants, so it's out on the street and enhancing our vibrancy downtown. And we do plants on the poles. You know, the pretty flower baskets that are sitting there, they've been there for years. That's been a great program, and that costs a lot of money each year to maintain those. Replant them 4 times a year or 5 times. Maintain for the ones that get vandalized. So we do a good job with that. I'm proud to see that I'm a chairperson that did. This is my 3rd term I think I'm on for. I enjoy it. It's all volunteer time, volunteer hours, and we diligently do our homework and work hard to make that a good outcome for downtown. It's interesting now, when you look, the question I was posed, I think, is how do we get here and where are we going with commercial and how does it all work? Well, if you go back and if you just study the populations, I was trying to get a handle on where we sit. So we sit at 54,764. If you look at our neighbors, what's in our neighborhood? Well, Bradenton has 55,000, pretty similar. Manatee County has 412,000 in the entire county. Sarasota County has 447, including us. Went to St. Pete, looked at their 258,000 in their city. That's a vibrant big city. Tampa, 387, so St. Pete's nipping at their tails. And Clearwater's 116,000, which is part of Pinellas County at 956,000. So we got some big competition around us as people look at the market. But when you go back and look at U.S. News & Report, we're #1 for a good reason. Quality of life, the beaches, our government, it's extremely well run. I'm proud to be living here. I've been here since 1991. I participated in a lot of the growth that was here. Hopefully it was good growth. Not a high-rise guy, so it's a good thing, I guess, in this crowd. Don't build those. But how did you get here where we are? If you go back to 1998, Andrew Stewani was brought into town by city government to look and do a design charrette to create new urbanism. was a new term to us pretty much back then. Trying to understand what that is. And I went and pulled the ordinance out from 1998, which was adopted in 2000. So it's now 23 years old, which means to me it's time to take a look at it. But if I look at the ordinance, and I look at the pictures in the ordinance, it's exactly what we got going on right now. Tall buildings up against the street, narrow sidewalks, and retail space inside residential buildings, which to me doesn't belong because they don't work. I mean, look how long it took to fill in where San Sarah is. I'm not picking on a particular building, they're all beautiful buildings, but the retail on the corner there, there's no parking, build street parking, but how do you fill that retail? And yet you make it a condition of approval. So it puts more of a burden on the price of the condos and or whatever we have downtown, vacant space. The Boulevard, a hard corner on 41, and Boulevard of the Arts, another tough corner. Very little parking, no outdoor seating. What do you do with that space? There's a condo at the Quay. There's downstairs space overlooking the bay. It's very pretty, but how do you get to it? How do you service it? So these things need to be looked at. And if you bring back Goewey, I'd recommend, Steve, that you bring this guy back in and say, take around, look at your work. How did it work? And what did work and what didn't work? And try and go through that ordinance and see what we can fix. I mean, there's things to definitely fix. I think you're going to need to pull the buildings back a bit, get some green space, put some trees in here. I mean, we're getting a lot of
Are you running for office?
I think that's the way I feel about it. I mean, you look at the Quay, where I actually live at the Quay, and you look at that, what it's turning into. I mean, it's just one huge building after the next huge building, which is, when you bought into it, you understood it coming into the deal. But people downtown are looking at it and saying, how did it happen? It happened in 2000. And now we have the end result for it. Good or bad, there's a lot of good with it too. Brought a lot of vibrancy to downtown, created a great place for you to live. The Mark turned out to be a beautiful project. There's great pieces of this thing. The State Street Garage, the Palm Avenue Garage, the vibrancy on Palm Avenue. Those are wonderful things to have. There's a great Fresh Friday coming up that did it sponsor. I think it's November 3rd. And it is Jazz on Palm. We've had Fresh Fridays, which people like and don't like, because you bring people downtown, but it closes at 10 o'clock. So hopefully the noise goes away at that point in time. But great vibrancy, it's good for the restaurants. We need the restaurants to thrive, we need the retailers to thrive. Because if you go out east, it's free parking. University Town Center's got everything we got and free parking. So we have to stay on top of our retail and stay on top of our restaurants and enjoy what we have and patronize what we have here. It's just important to the vibrancy of downtown. What other little goodies did I pick out? And once again, we're trying to circle back around to the infrastructure and how we can help infrastructure. We would like to pay for crosswalks to be put in, but we need cooperation from, in some cases, the DOT, some cases, city traffic and planning. Help us create some crosswalks to make crossing some of these streets safe. State Street, Palm Avenue, people are darting across the streets. So that's one of the projects that DIT is looking into and trying to take that out. We're paying for the street improvements that are going to be on Main Street, where they change the parking from angled parking to parallel parking. I had no idea that Main Street was one of the highest accident traffic spots on the west coast of Florida, is Main Street. Trucks are sticking out, they back the beds of the truck, you drive down, you can't see backing out, you can't see coming down. So that's a big conflict point we're trying to correct, and we're participating in that program as well. So I think I did touch upon what I had on my mind today. I welcome it back, Steve, if you bring back Kwani to town. I'd love to talk to him, take him for a ride, and show him his handiwork, good and bad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Erin, if you want to change the slide. Before Erin starts, how many of you actually go out and around throughout the state? How many of you actually travel the state, not just stay in the Sarasota bubble? And that's not a bad thing, Sarasota bubble is not a bad thing. So it's about half. I spend more of my time traveling all over the state anyway for work. And I will tell you, I'm from Chicago, so don't yell at me for that. Right? I'm not a Go Bears fan. But all the downtown areas that I see, whether it's Jacksonville, whether it's West Palm, Ocala, it doesn't matter. I've been here for 5 years, and the stuff that I've seen happening in Sarasota proper by itself really is impressive when you compare it to other things in the state. So you're really on a good trajectory here with Downtown Sarasota. Just keep on going with that. And your engagement really does help push those things. So that being said, Erin, this is Erin Silk, is the President and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation. So welcome, Erin.
Thank you, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you. I'm so glad to be here with you. I feel absolutely honored and blessed to live in Sarasota and this community and be a part of this community. Like many, I started as a vacationer visiting Grandma and Grandpa. Grandma's in Venice, and absolutely loved Sarasota County and did everything that I could to have my career here. In fact, my great-grandmother built her house here in the 50s. My grandfather used to tell a joke that the Silk family first came to Sarasota on horse and buggy. My grandma says that's not true, but who knows. So long time here, and glad to be here with my career. I have been working with the Economic Development Corporation now for 4.5 years. I've had the honor of serving 4 different roles at the EDC and now have been president and CEO for about 4 months. I'm a certified economic developer through the International Economic Development Council. There are about 20 in the state of Florida and about 1,100 across the country. The EDC this year is celebrating our 20th anniversary, which is really exciting for our organization. I want to tell you about the organization first and foremost. We are a public-private partnership. The City of Sarasota is an important part of that public-private partnership. We also are in partnership with Sarasota County, City of Northport, Long Key, and Venice. And 20 years ago, similar to where we are today, we have a very much different business landscape, but our business people and our community and our elected officials looked around and said we're very heavy in just certain industries, tourism, hospitality, healthcare, construction, and so they purposely formed an organization with the EDC to help diversify the economy, because a diverse economy is a strong economy, and so that's what we're doing every day. We have our targeted industries that the City of Sarasota participates and says these are important to us. EDC, help us be the facilitator of growth within these industries because it helps our community create a diverse job base and capital investment base. There's a lot of excitement around the City of Sarasota in our work. I will tell you, 4 years ago when I started the EDC, we were marketing Sarasota. Please come check out Sarasota. You know, it'd be a great place for your tech company, your corporate headquarters expansion. Nowadays, our work has shifted, and it's people saying, hey, we've heard about Sarasota. We now want to be there. Help us get there. And so it's a wonderful situation to be in. There are some gaps that we're helping to fill in our community. You know, for instance, ready to move in Class A office space. There's not a lot of big Class A office space here in Sarasota. Business park opportunity around the county, there's not a lot of. So working with our partners here in the city and countywide to grow those. We are the agency that is out marketing the City of Sarasota to diverse industries. There's been an incredible amount of entrepreneurialism. We have some amazing startups here in Sarasota. Entrepreneurs from around the world who have decided to relocate to Sarasota. They've had successful exits, successful ventures, and now they've decided, you know, post-COVID, I can be anywhere in the world, and I want to start my next business from Sarasota. And so it's been a lot of excitement for us. We're also helping our local companies as they're doing their growth here, hoping that they stay here. Our team has a service that we call our concierge service. So as a company is doing their growth and looking for resources and looking to understand our community, we're going to take them through that concierge service totally free of charge. This is we're a service organization on behalf of this community to help these companies grow and grow here. It's very interesting, particularly if you're dealing with an international company as they're coming to our community and navigating where our employees going to live, what is healthcare like, who are the cell phone providers. So it's very interesting and a lot of fun. So, it looks crooked from my vantage point anyways. But I did bring some data because I always have data. And we talk about diverse industries, particularly in the city of Sarasota. The #1 largest industry here is healthcare and social assistance with 15,000 workers, accommodation and food services, and public administration. The powers that be have a thing called a location quotient, and what that says is it measures a community's density of a certain industry industry against national averages. And what we know is that the city of Sarasota has 3 really high location quotients: public administration, healthcare, and also arts and entertainment and recreation. I think that we all know that this is an arts and cultural hub, and that's one of the reasons why we love Sarasota. Over the next 5 years, Sarasota is projected to add about 4,500 jobs in those industries of healthcare, accommodation, and then professional, scientific, and technical services. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of interest in coming to Sarasota. I apologize, my slides are a little different. And all the wonderful accolades that were mentioned earlier. I also want to mention our metro area was ranked as the 2nd fastest growing metro in the country for 2023 and 2024. So, you know, as a citizen here and having my family here and working here and being here for about 10 years now, you know, I recognize that there's a lot of growth. We all feel it every day, and it's for good reason, because we quite literally are the 2nd fastest growing metropolitan in the United States of America. What I truly appreciate about being a part of this community is that we have conversations like this, dialogue like this, and we work together and collaboratively to build a sustainable community long term, and people really do care about our community. Another really interesting point that I wanted to point out to you guys, this graph shows, it's from LinkedIn. Every month they rank workforce relocation. On LinkedIn for the past year, our metro has ranked #1 for workforce relocation, and what that says to us is that's the remote worker. Remote workers are relocating to our area and have continued to do that over the past year. We continually rank top here on this LinkedIn ranking. To me, you know, we love the remote worker. The remote worker is coming into our community. They're making their money from elsewhere and spending it back in our community and bringing that wealth to our community. So we love to see that. So what this slide shows really is that there's a lot of capital investment. There are a lot of really large investment projects that are happening in our community. And a lot of capital investment, transformative capital investment that's coming to our community. You ask who's coming here. These are a couple of the new tech firms that you might run into here in Sarasota. To give you an example, eHubCo is a company that came from Canada, and they came to our office and they said, we're not too sure about Sarasota, tell us more about it. And we got to talk to them about Sarasota, talk about this great community. Ultimately, when they landed here downtown, it was a lot of fun because the CEO said to me, you know, Erin, you said everybody was so welcoming and warm here, and you weren't lying. Everybody is so welcoming. And that's what oftentimes our businesses are looking for when they're looking for a community to go to, whether it's a tech firm, a corporate headquarters. There's a lot of places in the country to choose. There's a lot of places in Florida to choose, Miami, Tampa, Orlando. The companies that we interact with are looking for a smaller community with a great quality of life, where there's access to resources, there's a collaborative governmental entity. Arts and culture are a really big deal, particularly for our creative and tech companies that we're seeing flock and grow here. And so we're doing something right. You know, we'll continue, there's Ian. We'll continue to work to grow our Class A office space and our business park space so that we can continue to capture that diverse industry. There you go, Ian.
Thank you very much, Erin. And certainly from the commercial real estate world, here comes Ian Black from the Ian Black Real Estate Company.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction. I emigrated to the United States in 1982. Came straight to Sarasota. A little Irish Jewish boy coming over here to try and make a living for myself. And I can tell you that I've been here now for just over 40 years, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. I moved downtown with my family about 3 years ago. We're living in the Mark, and really I enjoy every moment of it. I think it's a great building. I love the location. I love the vitality, I love the energy, and it really is a super place to live. And I realized that obviously 5 or 10 years ago, that would not have been possible. So I've seen great strides. So, I'll see this myself. So let's talk about the big picture and really, why are we really enjoying the what would be termed a boom, or why is this such a popular place to live? I mean, it's probably blatantly obvious to everybody. You know, after COVID, a lot of people who work here discovered Sarasota, don't need to be in the big cities. The big cities have their issues, particularly we're seeing a significant in-migration from the west coast of America. In fact, we're about to take on a new associate in our business, a real estate broker from Seattle, and he just can't take it anymore out on the west coast. He does, of course, have some family here, and he's relocating, joining our company in January of 2024. I mean, look what we have. We have the Bay Park, which has been alluded to. I mean, it's phenomenal. And, you know, I was in New York at the weekend, walking past Central Park, and I realized what an unbelievable asset that is to New York City. And I thought, you know what? We have that same kind of opportunity here in Sarasota with the Bay Park. It's absolutely fabulous. The Selby Gardens is going to be a worldwide attraction globally. Bobby Jones is about to be completed. The municipal golf course is going to be absolutely fabulous. The city should be congratulated on you know, what they've done with Bobby Jones, and you know, its nature trails and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if anybody's flown out of SRQ recently. I mean, this is like Atlanta Airport. I mean, this is like, you can't move. And the construction's going on, the new terminal's happening. So much, you know, if you look at the in-migration, I don't know where that number came from, but it's certainly up there. And it's going to get even more so in the coming years. Talk about some significant transactions our company has been involved in. We were involved in the sale of the former Williams Parker location. Believe it or not, they are all working, all the Williams Parker attorneys are working remotely this week because their move over to Plaza 5 Points is not totally completed. And obviously once they move out, we're in the planning stages. We're working very closely with the developers to bring what will be I mean, that's a 3-acre piece of property there that will be redeveloped almost like another little mini city within a city. We also were involved in the sale of the Zenith building, and as you can appreciate, that's probably main in main for a location. And I know that our clients there are well funded and are planning a world-class development there. And again, the other thing, the important thing that's happening, and it's been referred to, the affordable housing situation. I'm privileged to work closely with the city in trying to improve the availability of workforce housing or attainable housing. So the city should be congratulated on bringing forth the zoning text amendments that are going to helpfully make that more feasible. And of course the state introduced the Live Local Act, which again helps provide incentives for developers to provide this type of housing. But of course that's got an issue in today's world with the increase in construction costs. Interest rates make it just that more difficult to try and bring it to a reality. But we have, as a city, we're losing the orchestra. They're going out to Fruitful Road. We're losing the county. They're going out to Fruitful Road too. Moat is really not moving. I've talked to Michael Crosby. They're certainly having a big facility out in UTC, but my understanding is they're going to renovate and improve their facility on over on Long Road. But again, we do face in our business people wanting to consider relocating their businesses, big employers relocating their businesses out east for one reason. It's the accessibility for their workforce. And that really is an issue, and that's why we really do have to focus on trying to bring in some kind of workforce housing into the core. And again, I don't need to tell this audience about increasing insurance costs. I just was informed that at the mark our insurance cost is increasing by about 160,000 a year. I mean, when will it all stop? Obviously maintenance costs are going up, and obviously construction costs, other costs of doing business. But we still have some major employers downtown and economic drivers. Obviously the hospital is growing. It's one of the top hospitals in the country. We're very lucky to have that. Government, the city is, again, they're expanding. And of course the arts organisations, schools, and of course the influx of new residents. And that's what's driving this. I know there's some brokers in here that will probably speak more to the residential end of things, but from what I understand is that because it's somewhat, people are not selling their existing homes because they can't find another home to move to. They're probably locked into a low interest rate, and if they move, they're going to have a higher interest rate. So that's why the sale of new properties is very, very brisk. My understanding is, I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but as soon as the new condominiums are announced, there's a brisk reaction and a lot of sales happening. But we shouldn't be complacent. When you're enjoying the kind of growth that we're enjoying, we should not be complacent. We should look at some opportunities to sustain this economic activity. We should obviously have our eyes, and I know Wayne is here, Appleby from the city, and I'm sure he's keeping his eye on grant opportunities for the city as we go through. I think it's important to look at connectivity and what, from the viewpoint of economic sustainability, we should look at supporting doing improvements on fruitful. I know it's been a controversial topic, but really I've worked on the road diet of fruitful. I think it must have been 10 years ago when I was chair of the Downtown Partnership, and we thought we had it moving, but it didn't happen at that stage. But I think that should be looked at again. I think obviously we should improve our streetscapes. Obviously I agree with canopy trees to promote walkability and safety. And Wayne did refer a little bit to, at the moment we build our buildings right up on the street, but I think, I'm sure Steve will maybe answer this, Steve Coe, the city planning director, that really it should be almost, I feel, a negotiated approval. In other words, if you'd like it moved back, if you'd like the building moved back from the street to create more green space, you give the developer another story or something like that. Negotiate what the neighbourhood wants and what everybody would like, and give the developer something that will allow him to make his project feasible by giving him for whatever. For example, at the Mark, they provided 50 additional, and not a lot of people know this, there are 50 municipal car parking spaces in the Mark, 50 of them, and in return for those parking spaces, the developer was given 2 extra floors. So, second would be to view the arts and culture, obviously, as an economic driver. It goes without saying, and I believe that a new performing arts centre is an economic and cultural fabric necessity. Not everybody might agree with that. I believe that the mechanism, the financing mechanism in play, there's a TIP or CRA there that if everybody knows tax increment financing, that will help finance the Performing Arts Centre. And if you look at the amount of redevelopment that's going to take place in that so-called TIP area, I believe we have the ability to fund what would be a world-class location. We should, again, I refer to connectivity as an economic driver. That's important because we need to less vehicular traffic. I drive a little Tesla. It takes me up ring to work, takes me down. That's about it. It does about 2,000 miles a year. But when after 6 o'clock, if you it's very difficult to get me into a vehicle. I can walk everywhere, I can do what I want without getting into a car. Obviously, we've got to serve, we need to improve the mobility to be able to get to the Bay Park, to get to the Selby Library, and obviously over into the Quay. We already have the Bay Runner. It would be interesting, I know we've looked at water taxis, but it would be something to look at, and I know that there's a conversation going on about bringing iRide back into the equation. Obviously, affordable housing. We need to utilize the recent development incentives that have been provided by the city and the state. It's important to do, from my perspective, it's very important to diversify the population of the city, to make it not only a place for millionaires and multi-millionaires who only live here part-time, but a place for everybody. And also, it goes without saying that it's good for retail. And then Joe's up next. So it was interesting talking about Downey. I, for the longest time, said that Sarasota was encumbered by hubris and always strove for mediocrity. I'm delighted to say I don't have to say that anymore. I think with our city administration, they are so forward-thinking at this point in time, and it's a pleasure to work with them and to work in the city. So I think if you bring Mr. Downey back, he always encouraged us to grow up and get out of our adolescence, and it'd be interesting to bring him back, Wayne. I think it's a great idea. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joe Thompson from Gulf Shore Insurance. We all live in a strange insurance world right now, and I know that just with what Ian referenced, the market going up $160,000-ish for the year. Those are hard numbers to choke down, for lack of a better phrase. But you're not the only ones going through it. It is statewide. I know you don't want to hear it because it affects you directly as well. But Joe, give us some reasons. Help us out. Help us understand it.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so it's obviously something that's impacting everybody that's in this room, whether you're a single-family homeowner, whether you're a unit owner, whether you're in a condominium association. It's touching everybody, and it looks like I need to move the slide a little more. So just hang on for a second. There we go. So I'm Joe Thompson with Gulf Shore Insurance Acrisure. I'm a partner with the firm. I handle mostly condominium associations. Been doing this about 11 years. So a little bit about Acrisure. We're the 5th largest broker in the world. We have about 1,000 physical locations, 21 countries. So it's a large enterprise. So we see a lot of what's going on in the marketplace, and with respect to the insurance costs in Florida, there are so many variables occurring right now to explain what's occurring. But to give you sort of the macro perspective, we look at the macro perspective first. You look at all the domestic weather events that have occurred in the United States since 2017. Look at international weather events that have occurred, catastrophic events. And actually, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has a really good map. And it's pretty amazing when you see it depicted in front of you. You see all of the named storms that have happened in the southeast during that time frame, which is, there's been so many named storms I've lost track, right? It's like an alphabet soup of named storms that have hit and caused billions in damage. You talk about wildfires out west, you talk about named winter storms, you talk about tornadic activity, you talk about flooding. Ultimately, when you add all of that up, it's been approximately $500 billion in insured losses since 2017. So you might ask, well, why does any of that matter if we're here in Sarasota and my condo's over here? We're not impacted by any of that stuff. Well, actually you are, because insurance is an interconnected marketplace. So those risks are underwritten by the same insurance companies, the same reinsurers that underwrite risks for wildfires, that underwrite risks for derecho type activity in the Midwest. So all of it's interconnected and it impacts everybody. So that's the macro issue. So the micro issue that has really impacted Florida is related to litigation. That's one of the key issues that we've had a problem with for so many years here in the state. And luckily, the good news, and there's good news to this, the state legislature actually made some very positive changes this year. There was a special session in December, and there was historic legislative reform enacted with respect to litigation reform, with regard to assignment of benefits being essentially eliminated for property insurance, okay? So 2 huge factors that will have a very positive influence on the market as time progresses. But the news is, it's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. We can't just flip a switch and automatically go from double-digit high increases to flat renewals in 1 year. It's just not going to happen. That's just not how it works in the insurance marketplace. So because of the litigation crisis in Florida, companies couldn't stay in business here. Companies were basically litigated to death in Florida. We've had an unprecedented number of insolvencies in the state. These domestic carriers that are admitted only, they can't afford to continue to do business here because they can't afford to keep up with the litigation that's been going on for years and years and years. Again, good news, going forward effective 1/1, we don't have that problem anymore. So now we're starting to see some new companies come into the state. We're seeing new capacity come into the state, and we're seeing glimmers of hope out there, very similar to what we saw at the tail end of the last hard market in 2012. So while it's not going to happen overnight, we are at the very early innings, the very infancy of a soft market, because we're seeing it happen in the marketplace. There's new carriers coming in, and they're being very selective, and they're very disciplined in their underwriting approach, but it's going to be a positive impact eventually. It's just going to take a little bit more time. So regarding condominium associations here downtown, it's becoming a major issue because it's a huge carrying cost. Just to sit in your unit now, think about insurance, think about your dues, think about structural integrity reserve studies, think about capital improvement projects, your cost of your insurance replacement cost appraisals going up. It's just absorbently expensive, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. So a lot of times people ask, what can we do as a condominium association to improve this situation? Well, if you're in an older building, you can initiate capital improvement projects, right? You can update the roof, you can update the opening protections, and things that would be of material interest to underwriters to make you a better risk. So those are really the only things in your control that can actually get you into a position where you're a more preferential risk. Because ultimately, insurance is a business, and the insurance carriers want the greatest return for their investment. And if you're not a good return for them, you're not going to get a lot of carriers that are interested. You're going to end up in a situation where you have excess and surplus lines carriers, and they're going to charge a lot because capacity is very restricted right now. But ultimately, I do see things getting better. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get there. And that's kind of where we are right now with the insurance marketplace. But it's very slowly changing, and those corollaries are similar to what we saw in the last hard market, which wasn't that long ago. And it doesn't last forever because you have to remember, it's no different than real estate market, stock market. It's cyclical. We have ups and downs. We're just in a very bad position right now. We got all the way to the top, and now we're slowly starting to drop. It's just going to take some time to get there, but ultimately we will do it. And it's important because essentially buildings are almost competing with one another. Whereas your building, you mentioned, 160% increase or whatever it was, the building next door may not have that type of an increase. So it might be more marketable from somebody from a sales perspective to say, hey, I'd rather live in this building. They have a new roof. They have all opening protections, whereas you might have a building next door that's 1980 construction with a roof that's 30 years old that needs a bunch of improvements. That's going to be an issue for folks. And I think you're seeing the demographic change, you're seeing the socioeconomics change of condo owners as well, whereas if you had retired here 25 years ago, it was easy to live in one of these units because you bought it for $100,000 or less, but now, just by sitting in it and general appreciation over time, it's expensive to maintain the costs. So we're seeing a shift, and the way to really mitigate that is to improve your building.
Thanks, Joe. Anything else for you, my good man? Nope.
Q&A?
Before I bring up the from the legal side of this, insurance is a challenge for everybody, right? So, but the key that if I could impress upon you anything from the DSCA, DSCA, sorry, it's if you go online and you look at all these interviews and these news pieces of the boards are in a really tough spot, and you are in a tough spot when it comes to insurance, but you're going to take it out on somebody, and in some cases you end up taking it out on Joe or your insurance rep. But what we've also seen is that, and I'm going to reference First Service, we've seen that the management companies are getting blamed for the insurance. And it's just not true. It's just not. And I see this all across the state. It's a challenging job to begin with, not only working with boards of all income levels and all kinds of quality of properties, but what I'm really trying to relay is that you have to look at the market, and it's not just Sarasota. It's not just one named storm that actually did some serious damage here in Florida this year as the hurricane season begins to wind down. It's global, and it's not necessarily has anything to do with your managing agent. Again, that's just a little shout out because I am one. So that being said, Deanna Sada from Bert Simpson from the legal side.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Joe. I am not afraid at all to say I'm a litigator now. Hi, everybody. My name is Deanna Sada. I'm the managing partner of the Bert Simpson's Florida division. Our law firm does construction defect litigation. And most people don't even know what that is, so I'm going to give you a very small glimpse of it and how it relates to the booming economy and the booming growth of Sarasota. If you're driving down the street and you look to your left side and you see empty land and just beautiful waters and nothing, and then a few days later, or a few weeks later, a couple weeks later, let's say, you go there and you see a beautiful mansion, built, completed, painted and everything. Who's going to go to the second floor of that house? Nobody's going to want to do that. It's too fast, it's too quick. It was not thought through brick by brick and block by block. Now, I'm not implying at all that every single high-rise building that has been built over the last few years here, or that every new community is not built well. But what I am saying, though, is that when a city undergoes growth at this rate and this amount, there is a higher likelihood that some of the buildings or single-family homes or communities or townhomes are going to have construction defects. We cannot escape from that. That is a reality. And so we have looked at beautiful accolades about Sarasota. #1 best place to live. #3, actually one of the accolades was #3 of the 25 healthiest cities to live. And I couldn't tell if that was the 3rd of the 25 healthiest place to live or number 325. But I'm going to assume it's the first one. We've got these beautiful accolades, right? But go with me for a second. If we had a scenario where in a few years we discover that half of our beautiful high-rises that have just come up and half of these beautiful townhomes and single-family home communities that have been built are littered with construction defects. They're leaking, the pool deck is leaking, the stucco is bad, and people are not able to live in their units because of these issues. Just go with me for a minute. And then if we find out that the association was forced to impose very high special assessments to take care of these issues. Can you imagine what it would cost to fix all of the leaking windows in a high-rise building? Millions of dollars. Now, you're in real estate, right? If you, as a realtor, want to sell $1 million condo, but the association recently imposed a $10 million special assessment, how easy is it going to be for you to make that sale? Pretty difficult. Nobody wants to buy into that. And in fact, if you have special assessments to fix construction defects that you have to impose on your residents, what are they going to do? Many of them may drop their keys and leave. One of the reasons Surfside actually collapsed is because they couldn't impose the $9 million special assessment that it was going to take to fix that building. And 98 people paid with their lives because they couldn't fix it in time. I'm not saying we're going to have collapsing buildings here. I know I'm the last speaker. I don't want to end on a terrible note. I have good news for you. What I am saying, though, is let us learn from what happened and let us actually take active steps and encourage our residents that are in these high-rises, in the new single-family home communities, in the townhomes, that if they see something, to actually exercise their rights, go to the builder and developer in time and demand that it be corrected. Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is the time is going to run out, and then the only answer is a special assessment. One of the reasons I'm, as a person with a legal background on this panel today, is because we need to talk about legal implications with this boom. And the legal implication with this boom is this. Recently, unfortunately, unlike the insurance industry, our legislature passed a terrible law that eats away at homeowners' rights. They passed Senate Bill 360, which is atrocious, it's awful. They basically cut your time frame by 3 years for pursuing the builder or the developer for construction defects. 3 years, they've gone away. And what they also did was the clock now no longer starts from the certificate of occupancy as one of the triggering events. It now starts from the temporary certificate of occupancy, which eats away at more time for you to go to the builder and developer. And so now I just gave you all of this information. What does that mean? What it means is this. If you're in a high-rise, you have windows that are leaking, stucco that is cracking, something that is not correct. You know is not right. And you don't exercise your rights in time, especially now that the legislature has been eating away at homeowner rights, what's going to happen is you're going to be forced to have a special assessment, because these cracks and leaks, they don't go away magically. They get worse and worse and worse. And when you have to have a special assessment in many buildings or communities, I don't know how that number one is going to hold up, because people are going to be dropping their keys and leaving. So what I am encouraging all of you to do is this. Get educated about the bills that are being passed, because the reason they're passing and they're eating away at your rights is because we are outnumbered. Homeowners don't know that they can go to the legislatures and talk to them about not eating away at your rights. Because if we don't fix our buildings when we notice something is wrong, you're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. And guys, just because something is beautiful on the outside, if it's not pretty on the inside, it's just not beautiful. And that's not just for people, that's for buildings too. And so I am proud to say that our law firm, Berg Simpson, and our competitors are actually getting together regularly now and putting together a plan of action to get your rights back, to get your timeframes back, so that if there is something wrong in your community, you don't have to pay for it out of pocket, because the domino effect is terrible for the city. But in the meantime, and until we do that, and I'll end on a high note, the good news is your community is booming now, which means many of you are still well within your rights. So do something about it if you do have construction defects. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. So over the course of this presentation, we've given you a lot of information. So hopefully over the course of time, we have some questions. Yes? No? Anybody have some questions? Are they written down? Yep, we've got some over there. How about this? I'll do it. I'll grab a few of them while I'm here. I'll take those and start. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. All right, thank you. And we definitely will get these answered, so just hang with me. So the first one is for Mr. Robinson.
Can I elaborate on my question, please? Quickly?
Is this your question, the Mr. Robinson question?
Yeah, for John Woodhouse on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. For Mr. Robinson, okay? I've asked Mr. Fournier, when will the revised sit-lie ordinance be issued? Mr. Fournier emailed me back and said the revised sit-lie ordinances were ready in July 2022. And he's been asked by the City Commission to not issue it. Regarding the sound ordinance, we've been waiting for 3 years for a revised sound ordinance. I have it under reliable sources that Mr. Fournier has been asked not to submit the revised sound ordinances until the zoning text amendments have been approved. My concern is, how can we have outdoor bars and rooftop bars without a sound ordinance? So the question is, here's the question.
Right.
The question is, when will these ordinances be issued, and what's the holdup?
Okay, well, as we know, Mr. Robinson's gone, which is not bad, but we will get these responses to you. Unfortunately, I'm not qualified to respond to that, but we will. Whoa, yes, go.
Coover, Planning Director for the City of Sarasota. Good question. Right now, we have bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. Zoning text amendment that's working its way through the process right now. It did receive a favorable vote from the Planning Board and will be going to the Commission on November 6th. The noise ordinance is something completely separate. And so the ordinance that we're moving forward with really has nothing to do with noise. It's just defining the different kinds of uses, clarifying the processes, and a whole series of other things. The noise ordinance is a separate piece. I cannot tell you what the schedule is for the noise ordinance at this time.
All right. Next question here is for Deanna. What time remains, what time is left if 3 years, as you said, are eliminated from the condo timeline to react?
Well, there are two different clocks. One of them is called the statute of limitations, and that's 4 years from when you knew or should have known you had a defect. The should have known is important because courts can say, well, when your window leaked and you didn't start the clock, you didn't do something about it then, 2 years ago, you should have known you had a problem. And that's why it's important to act very quickly. It's 4 years from when you knew or should have known. And it used to be 10 years for what's called the statute of repose. That is a clock that basically doesn't care when you found out. It's a 10-year ultimate deadline, usually from the certificate of occupancy. Now that has been brought back to 7 years. We have several clients, as well as our competitors, who have several clients that they're no longer going to be able to bring a lawsuit because they may be outside of that 7-year period. Thankfully, the legislature gave a 1-year grace period after they enacted the law, and so you probably have a month or so left if you may or may not be within the clock or time frame.
Thank you, Deanna. Next question is for Mr. Black. The future, you mentioned the Zenith building and the Williams Parker buildings. Can you give us any insight as to who the future tenants of both of those buildings might be?
Unfortunately, I can't. I would like to, but we're really in the development concept stages. We haven't totally nailed down exactly what will be there. I can probably tell you that I think the Zenith building, where we're going there, we've had many different versions of what we might do there, but I think it's probably going to be condominiums, some affordable housing, and retail. It's just a great retail location. I think it'd be a terrific location. Williams Parker site, which is 3 acres, is a bigger issue entirely, but I could see potentially a hotel there, maybe 1 or 2 hotels. I could definitely see affordable housing there. I could see some condominiums there and retail.
Excellent. Joe, this one's for you regarding insurance. The question is, you mentioned litigation issues. Could you give us any details of the litigation and what is typical or the types of claims that are litigated?
Sure. So an often cited statistic from 21, and it's been updated since then, is that Florida represented 7% of all homeowners insurance claims, but represented 76% of all property insurance litigation. So when you kind of look at that, you're like, wow, that's super unusual. Maybe we should follow the money trail there. So when you look at the old law related to civil litigation, traditional civil litigation, the prevailing party is not awarded fees. But with property insurance in Florida, that wasn't the case for many, many, many years. And after Irma was kind of the catalyst for that, we started to see unscrupulous litigation attorneys, not good litigation attorneys, and roofers and general contractors and public adjusters effectively create almost like a mini cottage industry in Florida where they would really kind of pump up these claims and put it through a protracted process, and at the end of the rainbow, they might get a small settlement from the insurance carrier, but yet they get all their fees paid. And guess what? Their fees were not paid at a reasonable level. It was at a fee multiplier methodology, which is a significantly larger amount of compensation for attorneys. So that was going on for years and years and years. So as an insurance company, when you look at Florida and you say, okay, we know that there's name storms here, we know there's catastrophic events that would create a situation where we have a loss, but how do we as an insurance carrier model for the probability of you suing us and us having to go through 2 years worth of litigation, having to pay all your legal fees at a huge level of compensation. So what do the carriers do? Either they go out of business, like a lot of them did that were not financially sound, or they pull out of the state, because it's not a healthy business environment to be in. So that's what we saw. That was the retracting from the market. But now that the state legislatures put these reforms into place in the December special session, because the first special session was Champlain Tower South focused, which was in March, and they said, okay, let's try to do the insurance crisis and Champlain Tower South. Impossible to do in 3 days. So then we had Ian, and Governor DeSantis is like, oh my God, we do have a major insurance crisis now because this just happened. So then he brought them back in December, and that's when they really grabbed the bull by the horns. They got rid of the fee multiplier, they got rid of assignment of benefits for property insurance, and those were 2 huge reforms, historic reforms. But again, everybody was expecting an instantaneous fix. It does not work like that with legislation, with law changes when you're talking about market economics. So going forward, that new foundation effective 1/1 of this year, hugely important. And it's going to make a big difference in the state of Florida as time progresses, because now the reinsurance industry, which has been on the sidelines for Florida, a lot of the carriers that have really restricted their capacity are now looking into Florida saying, okay, we really like the reforms we saw. We had sort of a minimally invasive hurricane season this year. We're still in it, by the way, but we had one big storm. Luckily, it hit a non-populated area, not much of a major metropolitan area in the Big Bend. So I think we're going to see more of an appetite, sort of a healthier market slowly develop. And that's really the key, was getting rid of that sort of cottage industry that these small group of litigation attorneys, and the data's out there of what firms were the ones that were really behind all of this in the state. And it's really unbelievable. And there's so much tech-enabled litigation as well, where people, public adjusters, again, these litigation attorneys will pay search engines to have their name. They'll pay for 8,000 keywords you type in, unhappy with claim settlement. You type in an insurance carrier's name, they immediately pop up in the search engine, right? So if you're sort of a standard, policyholder of a homeowner, you don't know what you don't know, you're like, well, maybe I should call these people. They'll probably help me. Oh, they'll help you. They will help you. They've helped build the insurance industry out of billions of dollars since Irma. So it's all going to change going forward, which is a good thing. It's just going to take a little time.
Thank you, Joe. Steve, this is for you. This is zoning. It's a long one, so hang with me. We need smaller, more affordable units downtown. The zoning we have makes building 3,000 square feet. We need units that working people can use and will actually live and work here. Will someone address the issues of how to change the zoning issues?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's exactly what we did in our last attainable housing ZTA for downtown. We allowed increased density, which means the units will be smaller. We also have a requirement of 15% of the additional bonus units be provided for different income brackets. So those people now who work downtown, who have nowhere to live downtown, will be given the opportunity to do that. And we think this is really going to make a big difference. Keep in mind too, we're also looking at, this is not really part of the question, but I think it's important to say, we're also looking at another part of our attainable housing initiative along major corridors and major commercial sites throughout the city, such as North Tamiami Trail, South Tamiami, Fruitville, some of those, where we are looking also to provide attainable housing. One of the things we don't want to do is have all of our attainable housing in 1 or 2 geographic areas in the city. That just doesn't work, and it'll cause more problems than benefits. And so by doing this, we think it really is going to make a difference for downtown and for the rest of the city as well.
Excellent. Oh, keep it. You get another one. We're double dipping you here. The question is, what is being done to ensure building destruction will not harm public health, considering the Zenith building's age with likely asbestos and lead?
Wow, that's probably more a question for our building inspectors and that kind of thing. But whenever there's demolition of a building anywhere, whether it's in the suburbs or downtown, they have to meet certain requirements when they implode buildings. I know some of you have probably seen some of those videos of major structures in cities around the country. I mean, they're required to meet all the safety requirements. As time goes on, if that does happen here, they'll have to follow those requirements and regulations.
Excellent, thank you. Deanna, this one's for you. The 2023 reserve study it's milestone inspection, milestone inspection, how will that help with the building construction quality going forward?
That's a great question. The milestone inspection does help because it requires an engineer to come out to your building and take a look. The problem is the milestone inspection, although it's got multiple phases. If the engineer suspects something is wrong, then the engineer can require additional inspection. But it does not actually peel back the layers and do window testing or stucco testing in an intensive way. So while it helps very, very much, if you have leaks after your milestone inspection is done, or you have leaks that you feel like were not covered by the milestone inspection, maybe the engineer signed off on it, it's probably because they couldn't do an intensive test. And that's what you cannot ignore. They're not geared to, towards uncovering construction defects that may not be seen with the naked eye, but they do help.
Thank you. For Lieutenant Adams. This is a two-part question. The first one, I'm going to address the ladies in the room. How many of the women in the room feel safe walking home after dark in downtown, by a show of hands? Okay, so we feel comfortable. The question is, what is being done to alleviate the homeless issue before Sarasota faces more issues? Uh-oh. I can't read this, it's slow.
That's not too good. Oh, it's the south.
Oh, okay. Before Sarasota faces issues on the salad.
On the scale of...
Oh, that's a scale? Oh, there's even more on the back, sorry. I apologize, I was only on one side of it. On the scale of San Francisco, Portland, or Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's get one, and C, let's try that again. All right. What is being done to alleviate the homeless issue before Sarasota faces issues on the scale of San Francisco, Portland, or Seattle?
Well, we have a lot of ordinances in place to make sure that we don't end up like those other cities that were mentioned. Some people think that it's just to be mean to the homeless population, but no, it's not. They have just as many rights as anybody else that's living in Longo Key, Bird Key, wherever you're at. So we have to really be careful on how we go about that. We are able to govern our public spaces, and so we use those ordinances to be able to do that, keep the community safe as well as keeping the community looking nice. Blocking the sidewalk is one of those things. Unattended property, we go and utilize both of those city ordinances on a daily basis to try and keep our community safe, clean, and not having hazards everywhere. I mean, you guys mentioned the Salvation Army is right by a private school. So we're constantly there every single day trying to keep it safe, clean. Our officers that are in the homeless outreach unit, they literally change their schedule day by day to try and cover 24 hours a day as much as we can.
Thank you very much. This last question that we have, I do have some questions for Mr. Robertson. They aren't planning driven, so we will get back to those. But this one's for Ian. Ian, I'm going to kill this one. So, why is it called Live Local Act when the state is making, it looks like, who wrote this one? Decisions, thank you. Okay, it looked like millions. When the state is making decisions for municipalities that have much more knowledge of their own cities.
The Live Local Act seems to give the state power to override what the municipalities.
I think that's correct, isn't it, Steve? More question for you. The Live Local overrides our zoning text amendment.
Overrides our local.
Yeah, I think that's correct, yes.
So the state law would override the local municipality.
I'm just trying to see the logic in that.
You answered the logic that
State has the power to override.
it overrides our zoning text amendment.
Yeah, the state has the power to override any of our rules and regulations. So the Live Local Act, whatever that dictates, we have to follow that.
I could add that let me just kind of put it into some kind of perspective. They're like tools in the toolbox to enable the developer to utilize whichever incentives will work to make the development include some affordable housing. When we're looking at about 3 or 4 different projects in the downtown core, and I can tell you it is we need all the tools we can get to try and provide this type of housing. So we're actually looking at projects that will utilize kind of both. Some projects will work for Live Local and be beneficial to them. Other projects will work with the zoning text amendments. Hopefully that helps you.
I'll take it. All right. Well, thank you very much for all the questions. We do have a couple more for Mr. Robinson that really aren't driven to, his office really does need to respond. One is about insurance for the city, and then we have some ordinance issues that will be addressed separately. So we'll get those questions responded to through the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association. So we'll have that information for you, hopefully sooner rather than later. But that being said, I'd like to introduce Annika. Here she comes. Annika is also with Bert Simpson, so Annika, and also with the Downtown Sarasota